Why are we going to be looking at the Lord's Prayer as we think about learning to pray? Well, if you want to learn anything, you want to learn it from someone who knows what they're talking about, don't you? And Jesus knows exactly what he's talking about in prayer. He knows that because he's the Son of God. Eternally, he knows what it is to communicate and to commune with his Father in heaven. And when he was on earth, incarnate as a man, he did that. We see many occasions when he went off on his own, or he prayed in a crisis, or he prayed out loud when he was in the middle of the ministry he went about. In all kinds of ways we see the record of his prayer life, just a little bit sticking out above the water, pointing to that bit of the iceberg way below the surface. Jesus knew what it was like to be tempted to be lazy, tempted to be selfish, tempted as we are, tempted to be crushed by responsibility and not pray, tempted to be paralysed by fear and not pray, tempted to be bone tired and not pray, tempted to be pushed for time and space and quiet because of all of the rush of everyone else being around. And yet Jesus was able to pray. So we're learning from the expert, and Jesus is the expert. Let me underline, not me. I have the L plates on very much in this. But the Lord's Prayer is really helpful for us in another way. It's a very memorable prayer. You probably know the Lord's Prayer already, and if not, it's very easy to memorise. So that's helpful because then it's in our hearts and our minds, and so if we're really low on energy, we can call it to mind. If we're out of routine, if we're busy commuting, or we're a mum and we're juggling this, that and the other, we just need a few seconds, 30 seconds, and we're able to call to mind the Lord's Prayer, because it's memorable and short, isn't it? Maybe we're in hospital, or hopefully not, but maybe we're in prison, or perhaps we've just woken up and having a sleepless night. The Lord's Prayer is memorable, and it's flexible because we can say the Lord's Prayer and use it in that very structured way as actual words to say as we slow down and pray those words before God and to God. But Jesus also said this is how you should pray, meaning that the Lord's Prayer directs our praying. It can be expanded, it can be take us in those directions that each part of the prayer kind of points us. And so it can be a kind of basis for prayer, an agenda for prayer, but not a limiter, not a straitjacket. It's very flexible. And the Lord's Prayer is theological. It's focused on who God is, and also on who we are. And that's the key to growing in prayer. It's not better routine or rules about prayer, although sometimes those things can be helpful practically. And it certainly isn't about point scoring with God or over other people. No, it's about God's gift to us and about his gospel. It's about who he is. And then lastly, it's really hopeful prayer. It's hopeful literally that it looks forward to God's kingdom to come. And so in one sense, the Lord's Prayer will only be fully answered at Jesus' return. And it's a prayer that makes us look forward to the future that God has for us. But it's also a prayer that Jesus tells us to pray now, and it's one that we can expect to be increasingly answered as God's kingdom grows, as his will is done on earth as it is in heaven. As we battle, and as we have lack, and as we have need, and we have sin, it helps us to see that God is with us now in helping us and being with us as we live in and for his kingdom to grow. So it's a really hopeful prayer. And so for all these reasons, I hope that you join us for this series. I hope that you join us on Sunday mornings, 10:30 at New Hall Street, to learn from Jesus, from the Lord's Prayer, about how we can pray.